You check your phone before your eyes fully open. The day hasn't started, and already there's a list forming in your mind. Things to control, things to fix, things to manage before they fall apart. And underneath it all, this quiet exhaustion, not from doing too much, but from believing you must hold everything together. What if nothing needed to be controlled for life to continue happening? The Indian sage Ramesh Balsekar spent decades pointing to something simple, almost too simple. Accept that all actions happen according to thy will. I surrender completely to thee, without expectation, not as poetry, not as philosophy, as direct observation. Today, we simply allow this teaching to meet the world we are living in now. Notice how much energy goes into trying to steer your life. The inner negotiations, the planning, the constant measuring of whether you're doing enough, choosing right, staying on track. There's a tightness that comes with it, isn't there? In your chest, in your jaw, in the way your shoulders carry the weight of tomorrow before it even arrives. It's not that planning is wrong. It's that underneath the planning is a belief, silent, unquestioned, that if you stop controlling, everything will collapse. But has control ever actually prevented life from unfolding exactly as it does? The meeting that fell through despite your preparation, the relationship that ended no matter how hard you tried, the opportunity that came from nowhere, unplanned, unearned. Balsekar wasn't teaching passivity. He was pointing to something you may have already sensed, but never quite named, that actions happen through you, not by you. Pause with that for a moment. The decision you think you made this morning, was it truly yours? Or did it arise from a confluence of conditioning, circumstances, genetics, environment, and 1,000 invisible factors you never chose? Your personality, your preferences, the thought appearing right now as you hear these words. Did you author any of it? This isn't a philosophical puzzle to solve. It's an invitation to stop, to see that the weight you carry, the responsibility for making everything turn out right, was never yours to begin with. Balsekar called this letting life flow, not as surrender to defeat, as recognition of what's already true. Life is flowing. It always has been. The question is, are you resting in that flow or exhausting yourself pretending to be its author? Watch your own experience for a moment. A thought appears. You didn't summon it. It simply arose. An emotion surfaces. You didn't choose it. It came. The breath moves. Your heart beats. Cells divide. The body ages. All of it. Happening. Not because you're controlling it, but because that's the nature of life. It moves. It unfolds. It continues. Whether you're paying attention or not. Whether you approve or not. Simply accept that all actions are actions of God, Balsekar would say. Or if the word God doesn't land, then this. All actions are movements of consciousness itself, impersonal, inevitable, unfolding according to laws you cannot see and do not control. And here's where it gets interesting. Because the mind immediately protests, but if I'm not in control, why do anything? Why make decisions? Why try? Balsekar's answer was profoundly practical. You still act. You still choose. You still put forth effort, but you stop carrying the illusion that you're making it all happen. Think about this. When you wake up and decide to make coffee, did you decide that, Or did the desire for coffee simply arise and the body moved in response? When you speak to someone and the right words come, are you authoring those words in real time, or are they appearing from some deeper intelligence you can't quite locate? You live as if there is free will, because the experience of choice is built into being human. But beneath the appearance of choice, there's only this: things meeting things, and movement happening. You do what seems necessary in the moment. You make decisions responsibly. You apply your best effort. But then, and this is the shift, you stop demanding that outcomes match your expectations. You stop carrying the future in your chest. Think about the last time something didn't go the way you planned. The disappointment that landed like a stone. The frustration. The mental loop of "I should have done it differently." Now feel the weight of that. How it steals energy from this moment. How it turns the past into a prison and the future into a battlefield. Now imagine living without that loop. Not because you stop caring, not because you become indifferent, but because you recognize that what happened was the only thing that could have happened, given all the conditions, seen and unseen, that converged in that moment. Does this mean you approve of everything? No. Does it mean you stop working toward change? No. It means you stop wasting energy on guilt for the past and anxiety for the future. The past is gone. The future doesn't exist. All that remains is this moment, and this one, and this one. The eternal present, where life is actually happening. Balsekar once quoted a 13th century Indian potter named Gora. The body is subject to all natural laws. Let it fulfill its role. I accept that all actions happen according to thy will, not submission to suffering, recognition of reality. The body will age, events will unfold, people will come and go, circumstances will change. None of it waits for your permission. But here's the piece, hidden inside that recognition. If you are not the author, then you are also not responsible for holding the universe together. The weight lifts, not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped pretending you were ever in control. Pause here. Not to do anything, not to fix anything, just notice. Right now, in this moment, is anything actually wrong? Not your thoughts about the future, not your memories of the past, but right here, this breath, this stillness, this simplicity, life flowing through you, as you, without effort, without your permission. And in that lifting, something else becomes possible. Spontaneous action, not action born from fear or ambition or the need to prove something, but action that arises naturally, moment to moment, without the contamination of ego, seeking credit or avoiding blame. This is what Balsekar meant by letting life flow. You respond, you act, you engage, but without the exhausting burden of believing you are making it all happen. The wise person, he said, lives in the present moment without worry. He accepts whatever comes and never has anything to seek. Because what is there to seek when life is already unfolding? Not according to your preferences, but according to the totality of existence itself. You've already experienced this, even if you haven't named it. The moments when you stopped thinking and just moved, when the decision made itself, when you acted without knowing why, and later realized it was exactly right. That's life flowing through you, not you controlling life. Those moments when the grip loosens, when you stop narrating every move, when you simply are cooking a meal and losing track of time, a conversation that flows without effort, walking and suddenly noticing you've been breathing deeply without trying. This isn't about becoming passive, it's about becoming real. Real action, spontaneous, intuitive, unforced, arises when the mind stops blocking it with constant analysis and the desperate need for control. So, what happens when you stop resisting this? When you stop trying to manage every outcome, steer every conversation, ensure every result? The anxiety about the future begins to dissolve because you recognize that worrying has never changed a single outcome. It only drained your energy in the present. The guilt about the past begins to fade because you see that what happened was inevitable, not because it was predestined by some cosmic plan, but because all the conditions that created it were already in place. And in the absence of that worry, that guilt, that constant inner warfare, you find something unexpected. Not bliss, not enlightenment, just a quiet, steady peace. The peace of no longer fighting reality. Nothing needs to be controlled for life to keep happening. Nothing needs to be controlled for life to keep happening. It always has. It always will. The question is, will you exhaust yourself pretending to steer it, or will you finally rest in the flow that was always carrying you? This teaching doesn't ask you to believe anything. It asks you to observe. Watch your own life. Watch how everything simply flows. Naturally, decisions arise. Actions happen. Outcomes unfold. All of it moving. And you, here, witnessing, breathing, present, not separate from the flow itself. There's nothing to achieve here, no state to reach, no transformation to complete. Only this, the recognition that the life you've been trying so hard to control has been living itself all along. And in that recognition, the tightness loosens, the weight lifts, the breath deepens. Not because you did something right, but because you stopped doing something wrong. You stopped pretending. If this resonates, there are other teachings here, other invitations to see what's already true. And if this is where you are right now, with these words, feeling this pull towards something quieter, something truer, then perhaps that, too, is part of the flow. The peace you seek has never been elsewhere. It's here, right now, in the simple recognition that nothing was ever yours to control. Let life flow.